Catherine hated me, yet she treasured Olivia like a precious jewel. From a young age, I had to do laundry and cook, and I would be beaten by Catherine if I wasn't careful. But Olivia could wear a party dress and play the piano, doted on by Amy and Tom. It wasn't until that day, when Catherine celebrated Olivia's birthday, that she revealed the truth in a drunken stupor. At birth, she had swapped me and Olivia. I wasn't Catherine's child, I was Amy's child. But when I ecstatically told Amy this news, she gave a cold smile. "Did you think I didn't know? But I don't want you, and you'll never be my daughter." I felt as if I had been doused with a bucket of cold water from head to toe. I didn't understand why neither of them wanted me, but from then on, I would no longer expect any love. It wasn't until I got into Stanford University and slammed 2 DNA test reports on the table that they both panicked. "Emily, where the hell have you been? Didn't I tell you it's Olivia's birthday?" I shuddered and quickly closed the book I was reading, putting it away in the cabinet. The next Catherine, pushed open the sliding door and walked in. Seeing me standing there timidly, her face was full of disgust and impatience. "Look at you, you coward. You're nothing like Olivia. What are you moping around here for? Get out of here." I nervously followed her out, and because I was walking too slowly, Catherine yanked me hard, and I almost fell. Catherine didn't love me. I had known this since I was a child. Even my name was filled with her disgust. Amy said it was because my biological father was a jerk who abandoned his wife and children, so Catherine didn't love me. So, I was always careful, afraid that Catherine would hate me. I studied hard and presented her with a perfect test score. But Catherine tore it up and threw it in my face. She said fiercely, "Even if you study your whole life, you'll never catch up to Olivia." I held back my tears and studied even harder after. Ward. I wanted to prove to Catherine that I wasn't bad, that I wasn't inferior to Olivia. But Catherine threw away my pencils and notebooks and handed me cleaning cloths and a broom. "Instead of wasting time studying, you should be cleaning. You'll be mopping the floor at home every day from now on, and you'd better start learning to cook. Or else, why am I raising you for nothing?" Catherine cut off my only chance to prove myself through studying. Maybe it was because I was born unloved, so I could never compare to a child who was loved. I realized this even more deeply at Amy's house. Olivia was wearing a beautiful party dress and a small tiara, and she and her equally beautiful and well-dressed classmates were about to cut the cake. But I didn't even dare to change my shoes at the door. My socks had several holes, and my shoes had long since come unglued. If I moved too much, the soles might even fall off. Seeing me hesitating at the door, Catherine got angry. She cursed and said I was an embarrassment, throwing me a pair of men's slippers that were much too large. But then she turned around and presented Olivia with a gift, her face full of smiles. "Olivia, this is a birthday present from your aunt. Haven't you always wanted this crystal necklace?" The crystal was shaped like a swan, and Olivia looked especially beautiful wearing it, like a real princess. I was a little envious. Olivia and I shared the same birthday, but I had never received a gift, let alone an expensive crystal necklace. Olivia sweetly said thank you, and Catherine immediately beamed. Olivia is so smart and sensible, unlike that worthless girl who's like a dead person, she can't even say a word. I stared uneasily at the bright floor, where my skinny shadow appeared, like a rat spying on other people's happiness. Olivia's friends, her classmates, looked at me strangely and asked Olivia how old I was and if I had just started elementary school. We were actually in the same junior high school. But I rarely talked to anyone. There were 49 people in our class, and I GRE in the back of the class. No one befriended me because I was always wearing ill-fitting old clothes and didn't like to talk. They said I was dirty and smelly, like a child without a mother. Olivia glanced at me and explained, "No, we're the same age. Let's not talk about this, let's blow out the candles." Seeing me standing awkwardly to the side, Amy came over and gently asked me to blow out the candles with Olivia. But when I stood next to Olivia, I felt even more inferior. Someone frowned and said, "It stinks." "What's that smell?" I reflexively shuddered. The others smelled around too, and Olivia frowned and said, "Emily, is that your smell? Maybe you should go take a shower." I quickly lowered my head and smelled my clothes, but I had just taken a shower, so why would I smell? "It's not me." Then I saw the men's slippers I was wearing. "Is it the smell of the slippers?" "Don't talk nonsense, those are my dad's slippers. He just bought them a few days ago." "It's your smell. Don't you have athlete's foot?" Olivia said with a serious face. I was at a loss, not knowing whether to take them off immediately or try to explain. Seeing us arguing, Catherine, who was drunk, immediately rushed over and slapped me without saying a word. "Such a big kid, and you don't even keep yourself clean. Get out there and wait." The classmates present were frightened. They looked at Catherine and me in shock. My face was flushed red, and a sense of self-esteem that I had never experienced before emerged, but it was ruthlessly shattered by Catherine. Amy came to defuse the situation. "Why are you hitting the child? It's not her fault, it's just that David's feet stink, it has nothing to do with the child." I looked at Amy gratefully. I often thought, if only Amy were my Catherine. She would speak to me gently, wouldn't hit me for no reason, and I could have a cake on my birthday and wouldn't have to war K every day. But Catherine glared at me and turned to comfort her daughter, her face full of guilt. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. This worthless girl ruined your birthday party. I'll teach her a lesson when we get back." I couldn't help but feel terrified. Catherine's lessons were not just empty words. Catherine dragged me out of Amy's house, but as soon as we got outside, she pushed me hard. I lost my footing and fell straight down the stairs, but Catherine was still not frightened and slapped me twice. "You bitch, you're a bitch. Why didn't you just die when you were born?" I was dizzy from her slaps and didn't know if she was calling me that or cursing me. Olivia and I were born at the same time. She was happily celebrating next door, while I was being scolded and beaten by Catherine. For a moment, grievance and anger surged into my heart, and I suddenly burst out with courage. I struggled and pushed her away. I couldn't help but shout, "If you don't love me, why did you give birth to me?" Catherine was stunned, not expecting me to resist. "Did you think I wanted to give birth to you? If it wasn't for..." As she said this, she thought of something and suddenly stopped talking. After returning home, Catherine opened another bottle of wine and drank in the unlit living room. She drank and cursed me, saying that I had ruined Olivia's birthday party. I hid in the kitchen, afraid to make a sound. My bed was also in here. Fortunately, there was moonlight. I wiped away my tears and continued to take the book out of the cabinet to read. I was stupid, so I had to work harder to catch up with Olivia and get into senior high school. Until Catherine came to the kitchen, staggering and dizzy, I was startled and quickly stuffed the book under the blanket. But Catherine swayed to my bed. I gre blankly on the bed, but then I saw her smile gently at me. She had only ever shown the smile to Olivia. She gre on my bed and suddenly said, "Catherine loves you so much, will you blame Kath?" Ryan? I was stunned for a while, and my heart leaped with joy like never before. Catherine said she loved me. But the next second, she leaned on my shoulder and said in a daze, "Olivia, when you get into college, acknowledge Catherine. Those bitches don't deserve to raise you." If it weren't for Catherine being broke and unemployed back then, I wouldn't have swapped you with Emily. Catherine loves you. Boom! My head felt as if it had been hit hard with a hammer. Was Catherine telling the truth? I wasn't her biological daughter, I was Amy's daughter. Thinking of Amy's gentle care and loving eyes for Olivia, I felt like a little mouse running around in my heart. Could I have such a good, such a gentle Catherine? I thought for a long time and decided to go to Amy the next day. After school, I deliberately followed Amy, who came to pick up Olivia, and stopped her as they entered the house. Amy was puzzled, but she let Olivia go in first and then came to talk to me. What's wrong? What do you need, Emily? I gripped the hem of my clothes tightly and tried my best to tell her Catherine's drunken words from last night. I looked at her nervously and asked, Amy, am I your biological daughter? But Amy wasn't as excited as I had imagined. Her smile even disappeared, becoming cold and even a little similar to Catherine's. She asked me, do you think I'm your biological Catherine? The unease seemed to magnify in Catherine. I suddenly regretted asking this question. Would Amy also hate me because of this? I want you to be my Catherine. Amy smiled again, but only the corner of her mouth turned up. She looked at me mockingly, completely devoid of her former gentleness. Did you think I didn't know? But so what if I knew? It doesn't matter whether you're my child or not. I don't want you, and I'll never treat you like a daughter. With that, she turned and left. I stood there for a long time until it got dark before I came to my senses. No matter who my biological MO there was, Catherine didn't love me, and Amy didn't love me either. I was a child that no one wanted. After that day, I became much more obedient and stopped thinking about who loved me. Although I still couldn't figure out whose child I was, I knew that the only thing that could change my fate now was studying. I studied day and night. At school, I studied in class and after class. When I got home, I mopped the floor, cooked, and still hid in the kitchen to study. When it came time for the ACT, I wanted to get into the best senior high school, and for the GRE, I wanted to get into the best college. It didn't matter whether they loved me or not. I loved myself. Finally, I got first place in the entire grade on the midterm exams, while Olivia got second. She cried after the test because she had never gotten second place before and had never been surpassed by me. Knowing that she was crying, Amy felt so bad for her and hugged and comforted her. She said, no matter what place you get, Catherine loves you. Catherine also came. Seeing Olivia's aggrieved look, she came up and kicked me. You good for nothing. Why are you making your cousin cry? Apologize. I was kicked to my knees in public. Amy didn't even look at me this time and just took Olivia away. Catherine kicked me several times and scolded me for being mute and wouldn't apologize. But what did I do wrong? Why should I apologize? Mrs. Thompson, my teacher, stopped Catherine, and she finally let me go. But as she left, she spat on me and said, you're such a worthless girl, a dumb idiot like a mute. You should just die. After scolding me, she hurriedly left, undoubtedly to find Olivia. Mrs. Thompson felt sorry for me and took me back to the dormitory and made me a cup of hot chocolate. Jen, sigh, it's too cold, drink something to warm up. Those two words that no one could say correctly were my name. Mrs. Thompson said, we won't call you that anymore. You're doing so well in your studies. How about I call you unmatched? I had a new name. Mrs. Thompson announced in class, from now on, we'll give a special award to the first place winner of every test. First place is unmatched. Let's give her this title, shall we? From now on, whoever gets first place can be called this name. This time, we'll give it to Emily. There was a round of applause in the classroom, and I was moved to tears. The teacher had gone to great lengths to prepare this award to make everyone accept the title. Even if it was just for the name unmatched, I had to work hard. Mrs. Thompson moved me from the farthest corner to a seat below the podium. I finally had a desk mate. She was a chubby girl who brought snacks every day and occasionally shared some with me. Unmatched. Why are you so thin? Don't you ever eat? Although I was responsible for cooking at home, Catherine was often not at home. When she wasn't at home, there was nothing to eat, so I could only starve. And I didn't go home for lunch, and Catherine didn't give me money to eat in the cafeteria. She completely didn't care about me. After learning about my situation, my desk mate pretended she couldn't finish her food every day and asked me to finish the leftovers. And under her care, I finally gained a little weight, and my spirits improved a lot. To repay her, I would explain various test questions to her, and I became much more generous in speaking. A month later, I was determined to win the ACT. But on the day of the ACT, Catherine locked the door. No matter how much I cried and shouted in the kitchen, she wouldn't open the door. She even tore up my test admission ticket and the books I had hidden in the cabinet. I stood in the mess, while she stood outside the door. What's the use of reading so many books? Even if you pass the test, I won't support you. You're not Olivia, so accept your fate. My heart was completely dead. I asked through tears, leaning against the door, Catherine, is Olivia your biological daughter? Catherine's figure stiffened, but she still denied it. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm your biological Catherine. If you were as sensible as Olivia, I wouldn't have to discipline you. But I didn't know what I was being insensible about. I picked up the torn pieces of the test admission ticket and put them in my pocket. Catherine's voice was still ringing outside the door. I'm telling you, someone like you is destined to work and get married. After the test, you'll go straight to the factory to work. I've raised you for so long, and it's time for you to repay me. Stop thinking about comparing yourself to Olivia. You can't compare. I didn't listen to a word she said. I looked at the window and had a bold idea. We lived on the 3rd floor, and below was the awning where the moped was parked. If I were lucky, I could jump out and land directly on the awning. If I were unlucky, I would at most break an arm or a leg. I wanted to take a chance for myself. I looked at Catherine's blurry shadow outside the sliding door, tiptoed to the window, then quickly opened the window and jumped down without hesitation. I succeeded. I happily slid down the awning's pole in the shocked eyes of passers-by. I wanted to take the test before Catherine caught me. Mrs. Thompson taped my test admission ticket back together, and my classmates lent me a pencil and an eraser. When I rushed into the testing center, Catherine chased after me. She grabbed the iron railing angrily and cursed at me. You've grown up. You dare to disobey me. You're an ungrateful wretch. I've raised you for so many years, and this is how you treat me. But no one wanted to listen to her, and the parents waiting outside the testing center looked at her with strange eyes. What kind of freak wouldn't let their daughter take the ACT? The test lasted for 3 days, and I spent the remaining 2 days avoiding her and staying at Mrs. Thompson's house. I didn't go home until the ACT was over. I went to work in a nearby factory, which provided food and lodging, and a salary. Although it was tiring, it was much better than being at home. I was sweating profusely, tightening large bolts in the workshop when I received a call. It was Mrs. Thompson calling the factory. She excitedly told me on the phone, unmatched, the results are out. 706 points. You're first in the county-wide. The top senior high schools in the county have all called me. You're in for sure. For Catherine, it seemed like all the effort, grievances, and unwillingness had found an outlet. I wiped away sweat and tears and cried like a faucet on the table. The folks at the factory, the older guys and gals, everyone was happy for me. The factory director even gave me half a day off to go back to school to attend the incentive meeting. The school invited the top 3 students in the ACT back to present certificates and awards. The awards were a large luggage and a thermos flask. And Olivia was also at this speech. Before the speech, she found me and said, Emily, even if you pass me, Catherine won't like you. Don't think about stealing my Catherine. So, She had heard the conversation that day. But I just silently picked up the microphone and said to the faculty and students of the whole school, the test isn't for anyone, it's for me. After going to senior high school, Catherine's influence on me lessened a lot because I started living in the dormitory. The teacher also helped me apply for financial aid. I had money for food now, and if I ran out of money, I could help serve food in the cafeteria and eat for free. But applying for financial aid required a single-parent family verification, as long as Catherine was willing to prove that we were a single-parent family. But Catherine refused. She just didn't want me to continue studying. She was often drunk at home, or went to Amy's house to see Olivia. When I came home for vacation, she only asked about Olivia's situation. She cared about whether Olivia had eaten, whether the pressure of studying was high, and whether anyone was bullying her. I didn't know, and I didn't bother to tell her. Catherine would then scold me for being a useless piece of trash, something that would never be able to amount to anything, a rat that would never be able to compare to Olivia. My hands stopped cutting vegetables and threw the kitchen knife on the cutting board. You love her so much. Why don't you go be her, Catherine? Catherine suddenly became angry and raised her hand to slap me, but I was already grown up and wasn't that little girl anymore. I directly picked up the kitchen knife and pointed it at her. If you dare to hit me today, I dare to chop you. Catherine finally cowered, but still mumbled, I haven't seen Olivia for so long, I don't know if she misses me. I looked at her and said, You're not her, Catherine. Why would she miss you? Catherine looked at my eyes and suddenly looked away guiltily. In the end, she didn't sign the verification for me, but I secretly imitated her handwriting and signed it myself. Until the day the financial aid was distributed, Olivia saw it. I stood under the flag, holding a large sign, waiting for the teacher to take a picture. It was a lie to say that I wasn't nervous. My self-esteem made my whole face burn, but I knew very well that it wasn't shameful at all. I needed money to go to school and live. But a sudden voice rang out in the crowd, Emily, your Catherine is carrying a designer purse. How can your family be poor? It was Olivia's voice. I stood there awkwardly, wanting to explain, but who would believe me? Who would believe that a Catherine wouldn't let her child go to school? My financial aid was taken back, and the school said they would investigate thoroughly. The teacher also talked to me earnestly, Emily, lying isn't a good habit. This money should be given to those who need it more. No matter how I explained, the teacher didn't believe me. She even said she would call Catherine to talk about it. Olivia, who was the class representative for English, came to the office to hand in homework and offered to contact Catherine. Emily, your family is rich. Why do you have to take this spot? Looking at Olivia's innocent expression, I suddenly felt that she was doing it on purpose. Olivia, can you stop pretending in front of me? My Catherine only treats you like her own daughter. Has she ever cared about me? Olivia's face turned red, and she loudly retorted that she hadn't. The teacher quickly stopped us from arguing and told me to go back to the classroom first. Olivia had good grades, was beautiful, and knew how to talk, so it was normal for the teachers to like her. I returned to the classroom and looked at the report card on the table. Olivia was above me, she was first, and I was second. But I was determined that I would surpass her. I studied day and night, getting up earlier than the chickens and going to bed later than the dogs. When everyone else was asleep, I hid under the blanket and wrote practice tests by the light. My deskmate and I got into the same senior high school, and we were still deskmates and friends. She complained about me being too hardworking every day. Seriously? It's only senior high school. Is it necessary to work this hard? It was necessary. It was very necessary for me. The test was the only place that was fair to me. Fortunately, my efforts weren't in vain. On the first monthly exam, I surpassed Olivia. I was first in the class and sixth in the grade. She was third in the class and 13th in the grade. Olivia was unhappy again. She had matured a lot, and at least she didn't cry and look for Catherine anymore. But everyone could feel that we were competing secretly. Until Olivia started dating, her boyfriend was a small-time hoodlum from outside of school. Her grades plummeted, and the teacher called Amy to talk. I was coming back from getting food in the cafeteria when I ran into them. Olivia's eyes were red from crying. And Amy gave me a meaningful look. Although she didn't say anything, it seemed like she had said everything. As a result, Catherine came again that night. She carried her designer purse and barged into the classroom wearing high heels. Without saying a word, she tried to hit me. "You're jealous of Olivia every day. Tell me, did you introduce her to that hoodlum? How can you be so cheap?" The classmates stared at us in astonishment. I was used to her madness and stood up to pull her out. "Don't disturb everyone's studying." Catherine angrily shook off my hand. "You can't compare to Olivia, so you use these underhanded means." "Who is that hoodlum?" "How would I know? She didn't want to go out." "Fine, it was good to give everyone a show." "Olivia told you that I introduced her to her boyfriend. Why don't you ask her if I forced them to kiss?" Catherine's face turned red with anger. "Don't slander Olivia. Olivia is so sensible. She's not that kind of person." "Then what are you asking me for? Take care of your daughter and stop bothering me." I back down in my seat without fear and glared at her. "Aren't you leaving yet? Then do you want me to announce to the world that Olivia is dating, so that the principal can punish her sooner?" Catherine glared at me fiercely and left unwillingly. My deskmate couldn't help but sigh. "Is that your biological Catherine?" I didn't answer because that had always been a question in my mind. What Catherine said that day, while drunk, didn't seem like a lie. She said I was Amy's daughter. But Amy's behavior didn't seem like that of my biological Catherine. I thought about doing a DNA test, and even secretly looked into it. But one DNA test cost $2,000, which I couldn't afford at all. If I wanted to do a test, I would have to wait until after the GRE. But I secretly made up my mind that no matter who my biological mother was, I would never forgive her. And Olivia still came back to class, but she looked a lot more haggard. But I didn't have time to pay attention to her because the final exams were coming up soon. Before the final exams, Olivia found me, but it was to ask me to help her elope. After I refused, Olivia still eloped. Amy cried until she broke down. Tom was so anxious that he called the police, and Catherine wanted to hit me even more. "Why didn't you keep an eye on Olivia? What if she gets cheated by someone?" Catherine was so anxious that she didn't even care about the half-finished perm on her head. I just stared blankly and buried myself in my books. What did it have to do with me? Olivia was finally found, but she was devastated and became the worst student in the school. But I became more and more courageous, firmly holding the top spot. Catherine still looked down on me. Even if I did well in my studies, she would only glare at me and mutter, "What's the use of a bookworm who only knows how to read?" And Olivia, to fight against her family, chose another path. She was a maverick, wore makeup, smoked, and completely turned into a female hoodlum. But Catherine still comforted herself. Olivia is talented. Even if she plays around for 2 years, she can catch up. No matter how hard you work, you can't compare to her. Her mockery made me study even harder. Even if I was stupid, I could make up for it with effort. Soon, it was time to decide my fate. In order to prevent Catherine from causing trouble again, I simply stayed in the dormitory at school. Most of the classmates went home, and I was alone in the dark room, but I couldn't sleep at all. It was a lie to say that I wasn't nervous, but this was my only chance to change my fate. Fortunately, the GRE ended quickly. I was still wiping tables in the diner when I received my acceptance letter from Stanford University. That heavy letter seemed like my reward for passing the level. My nose was sore, and I was surrounded by praise from my colleagues, the older gals, and even the boss gave me $1,000 award and D took pictures to put up in the lobby for publicity. The school even brought a ribbon and drums to put on me, and even gave me a $20,000 scholarship. The first thing I did with my award money was get a DNA test. 2 in total, one for Catherine and me, and another for Amy and me. But the results were shocking. On the day of the DNA test, Olivia invited me to her graduation party. Although she barely got into a community college, Amy and Tom didn't mind and celebrated for her anyway. Olivia flaunted in front of me, "So what if you got into Stanford University? Catherine still doesn't love you." Unlike my parents, who will always dote on me no matter how I do. I smiled generously and said, "Then congratulations on getting into community college, and I wish you a lifetime of being spoiled by your parents." Olivia's face turned a little ugly, and she snorted and left. Catherine arrived late, holding a brand new car key in her hand. She happily handed the key to Olivia. "Good girl, this is a graduation gift from your aunt. Don't forget her in the future." Olivia became even more smug, looking at me with her head held high. Catherine also saw me following her gaze. She still liked to embarrass me in front of everyone. "What are you doing here? Let me tell you, even if you're lucky enough to get into college, don't expect a penny of allowance from me." Amy came out to persuade her. "This is your daughter. How can you be so cruel?" Catherine sneered. "She was a mistake from birth. If I couldn't throw her away, I would have gotten rid of her long ago." The sympathetic gazes of relatives and friends shifted back and forth on my face. Catherine also stared at me, but I didn't have a trace of sadness on my face, which made them feel disappointed. I looked at Catherine and asked calmly, "Can you be this cruel to your biological daughter? Pa, you're a disgrace. You think you're worthy of being my daughter? Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. What are you? Let me tell you, if I had a daughter, it would only be like Olivia, not a little slut like you." Her hatred was real. Even though I didn't care, hearing these words still made me feel uncomfortable all over. The banquet hall quieted down, and everyone could hear Catherine's scolding and insults. Amy also chose to remain silent, and Olivia looked at me with pity. Only Tom frowned and advised her to stop talking. But Catherine got more and more excited, as if she wanted to vent all her grievances. "You were my shame from birth. You ruined my whole life. You're tying me down. I don't know what you have that's better than Olivia. The college must have been blind to admit you." I looked at her quietly and nodded in agreement. "Yes, I'll never be better than Olivia, just like you'll never be better than Amy." Catherine was stunned, and Amy frowned at me. "What do you mean by that?" I slowly placed the 2 DNA test reports in my hand on the table, but didn't open them. "Catherine, you know what? I heard what you said that day. You said that you switched Olivia and me at birth." Catherine's face turned pale, and she rushed over to hit me. "What nonsense are you talking about? I never said that." And I continued, "But I also asked Amy, and she said she knew about it, but I wouldn't be her daughter." Amy's face also stiffened, and the relatives talked about it. No one thought that there would be such a big scandal. So, I did 2 DNA tests. Catherine's eyes became flustered, trying to snatch the test results, but I dodged her. She simply confessed, "Yes, you're not my biological daughter. Are you GRified now? Olivia is my child." Olivia's eyes were about to pop out, and she immediately hugged Amy's arm and shouted, "You're not, I don't want you, you bad woman, to be my Catherine." Catherine looked hurt, grabbed her arm, and cried, "I'm your Catherine, Olivia. I treated you so well before. How could you forget?" But Olivia's eyes were full of disgust, and she didn't want to look at her at all. And I looked at Amy. "Amy, tell me, whose child am I?" Amy looked away and said coldly, How would I know? Anyway, not mine. I lowered my eyes and opened the first DNA test with a smile. That's right, I'm not your child, because you secretly switched us back after you found out Catherine switched us, right? The DNA test clearly showed that Catherine and I were mother and daughter. Catherine, who was just crying and pulling Olivia, was suddenly stunned. She looked at the test results again and still couldn't believe it. How is it possible? How is it possible? You little bee, how could you be my daughter? But the test couldn't be faked. I was her daughter. Catherine broke down. She almost grabbed Amy's collar and shook her. Say something. You knew about this a long time ago, didn't you? You just watched me hit her. How can your heart be so dark? Amy pushed her away. What does it have to do with me? It's your fault for being a slut, having a child with a scumbag and still dreaming of switching my daughter. You brought all this on yourself. I took a deep breath and said, Amy, don't worry, my biological father is also here. What do you mean? Your real dad is just trash. He abandoned you and your mother a long time ago. Even if he's alive now, he should be in jail. Seeing Amy so nervous, I suddenly wanted to laugh. Then why are you so anxious? I turned my gaze to Tom, and he didn't dare to look at me. And then I opened the second DNA test, which clearly showed that Tom and I were father and daughter. I originally wanted to do a DNA test with Amy, but I accidentally took Tom's hair, and by mistake, I discovered this big secret. There was an uproar at the scene, and the relatives were talking about it. What is this all about? Catherine has been raising her biological daughter for so many years. Alas, it's a sin. To be honest, Catherine deserves it. Who told her to be blind and seduce her sister's husband? Are you Stu? PID? The two children were born at the same time. Who knows who seduced whom? Amy was so angry that she couldn't stand still. She covered her head and roared, David, how dare you cheat on me? Tom was like a quail and didn't dare to speak, only daring to look at Catherine. Catherine was only concerned with tears, wanting to hug me, but not daring to step forward. Amy wanted Catherine to explain to her what was going on. Catherine then knelt on the ground and cried out the truth of what happened that year. It turned out that Catherine and Tom were first loves. On the wedding night of Amy and Tom, he rekindled his relationship with Catherine. And Olivia and I happened to be born on the same day. Catherine, looking at their happy family, had the impulse to switch children. It's just that the only one who was hurt by their grievances was me. If I could, I would rather not have been born. The graduation party became a mess. Catherine and Amy quarreled with each other, and Olivia was so angry that she wanted to hit me. You're a bitch. You ruined my graduation party. I pushed her away, pointed to the man in the corner, and said, it all started because of him. Why don't you go find your dad? Before starting college, I changed my name. I like the name Wushwang, and I will continue to use it in the future. Catherine came to me with guilt, begging me to come home. She held the car key that was originally given to Olivia. Wushwang, Catherine has prepared a big room for you. Don't you like to read? Catherine bought you a lot of books. When will you come home to take a look? I only answered her after leaving the library, don't come looking for me. I won't go back in the future. Catherine hurriedly wanted to stuff the key into my hand, then you have to accept this. It's Catherine's compangiarian for you. I threw the key back directly, no need. Do you think you can make up for my previous pain with these? Money is important, but what's more important than money is love. Over the years, if it weren't for my drive to study, I would have been defeated by endless pressure and torment. And Catherine didn't think she was wrong. She just realized that I was her child after all. If I weren't her child, I would have to suffer this torment forever. Catherine cried so much that her makeup was ruined. She took my hand and said, How can you not forgive Catherine? Catherine didn't mean to do it before. You didn't mean to not let me go to school before? You didn't mean to beat and scold me after I got burned while cooking? Then tell me, what exactly is intentional? Suddenly, I smiled sarcastically. I know, you meant to switch the children back then. If Amy hadn't switched us back, it would be Olivia who would be tortured by you now. Amy's family has also been going through a divorce recently, and Olivia even came to Catherine's door to argue with her. She said that if it weren't for us, mother and daughter, their family wouldn't be like this at all. Moreover, Catherine is a stingy miser, and she didn't give her the car she promised. But these farces have nothing to do with me anymore. After the start of school, I stepped into a brand new world and will never go back. Catherine still sends me messages and gift cards every day, saying again and again that she loves me. But is late love still love?